We are very honored to have with us today Professor Albert Leung to give us the third webinar on traditional Chinese medicine. The first webinar was delivered last week in Chinese. The second one was delivered yesterday in English and was simultaneously interpreted in Spanish. Leung Gardeners, which started in September 2014, has been growing medicinal herbs on campus and promoting healthy lifestyle. On January 27 this year, we co-organized a webinar on traditional medicines and indigenous ways, inviting speakers from Latin America, Africa, Europe, and Asia to attend. The live-streamed section had over 5,500 audience, which is an indication of the interest in these issues. We are very happy that Leung University set up the Chinese medical unit last year, and we can count on experts like Professor Leung for his invaluable advice. Today's seminar are organized by Leung Gardeners and Leung University Chinese Medicine Clinic and are co-organized by Global University for Sustainability, Elbow Movements Venezuela, Red Elbow TV, and Comuna Adults de l'Odyssée. Professor Leung, Professor of Clinical Practice, Leung University, Director School of Chinese Medicine, the Chinese University of Hong Kong, 2011 to 2016, Professor Baptist University, 1991 to 2004 and 5, Monash University, Doctor of Philosophy, Medical Biochemistry, 1978 and to 1982. Professor Leung will speak in English, will be speaking in English, with simultaneous interpreting into Spanish by Hernan Vargas, Douglas Ranger. Professor Leung will speak for an hour. Then we have questions and answers. Please choose your language channel and type your comments on or questions in the chat room. The floor is yours, Professor Leung.
Okay, hello. So once again, we meet. So in Hong Kong now is 9 o'clock in the evening, right? But I know that in the other places like Venezuela, it's in the morning, right? It is in the morning. Okay. So good morning to those overseas. So I think this is the last of our Chinese medicine seminar. And the topic of my talk today is the similarity and differences between traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine. Well, actually, this is quite a big topic. So I'm afraid that I can only talk about a certain part. Okay, during this 1 hour, and maybe we can spend some time in the discussion. So let's go to the PowerPoint first. Right, for the first one, actually, I ended this slide just 2 days ago. But I think this is a quite interesting slide. It is about some changes of medicine, in mankind over the past a few thousand years. As you can read that long ago, people, if they are sick, they just choose to eat some plants and the root, right? That is quite natural. But then after some time, then that popularly is in Europe. They believe that so eating this kind of plant is no good. So here, say this prayer. And then after a certain time, then the kind of attitude change, right? And then they discard the prayer as and say that is a superstition, and then drink the medicine. And then so it's changed and changed again. And then when coming to the recent years, and with the discovery of antibiotics, okay, and is sort of quite a kind of magic medicine. So people, when they are sick, they will take the antibiotics. But now in the year 2000 and beyond, and then we know that antibiotic has a lot of side effect, and also they would develop this kind of bacterial resistant strain, and then they go back to eat this root. So it's sort of a cycle, right? So what I plan to do, within this hour is first uh, to introduce uh, Chinese medicine, because I think for most of you would know Western medicine a little bit better, and the theory about Chinese medicine is not quite known by the people, right? So traditional Chinese medicine is sort of is a kind of term. And what is the definition of traditional Chinese medicine? It refers to a broad range of medicine practices sharing common theoretical concepts which have been developed in China. Of course, the origin is in China, right? The origin is China, and of course we have a long history. So what it actually encompasses is a number of practice like use of herbal medicine, acupuncture, massage, exercise like the qigong, and dietary therapy. So, well, in fact, this kind of practice is not limited to China. Some place in Asia also share similar kind of healing method. So the doctrines of the Chinese medicine have been well recorded in a book which is called the Wang Di Nei Jing, which we can translate it to the medical classic of the Yellow Emperor. And also another very important book, which is called the Treatise on Febrile and Miscellaneous Disease, Xianghan Zabing Ren. So as well as a lot of philosophical notions or theory about yin yang and five phases, which also I mentioned yesterday. But for people who know the development of Chinese medicine, especially in the mainland China, after the 1950s, they have integrated the Western medicine, some part of Western medicine, such as anatomy and pathology, into Chinese medicine. And so now some people say that, say, in mainland China, actually the so-called Chinese medicine is not so traditional, because there's already some sort of mixture of the traditional views as well as the Western medicine kind of point of view. Sometimes it is quite sort of mixed up, so it is very hard to know which one is which. So this is the problem that probably we are encountering in the recent sort of 20, 30 years, in mainland China about Chinese medicine. So the Chinese medicine has a very special kind of concept. I divide it into the three parts. The first is we sort of will or see our body, in the sort of in the environment of the whole universe. So we view the body instead of trying to emphasize on the anatomical structure, but then we have pay more emphasis on the functional entity. That means, for example, the regulation of digestion, the breathing, and so on. So for this part, today I probably cannot have time to go into the details of that. That is about, in Chinese term, is called the organ system, 脏腑, 脏腑, 的脏腑理論, 臟象理論. This is the what the Chinese medicine say. So it is the theory about the organ system, which is quite distinctly different from the Western medicine. Although we are, someone will question how come that is the case, because we are all talking about the same body, but then we see it, the body from quite a different perspective. Then another view of Chinese medicine is how we see health and disease. So while health is perceived as a sort of a harmonious interaction of all the entities in our body and the outside world, disease is sort of interpreted as a disharmony in the interaction. So we place a lot of emphasis on this kind of harmony, which I will elaborate a little bit more later. The third part is about the diagnosis, how we detect disease. Diagnosis is the understanding or the detection of illness or disease. In TCM diagnosis, it consists of tracing the symptoms, and then we try to find out any underlying disharmony pattern. Of course, the method we use is by the so-called four diagnosis, which also will be elaborated a little bit later. So in this slide, you will see that what layman view about Chinese medicine. For example, now this picture, like the picture here is a patient, a man is doing acupuncture. This is boiling of the herb, and this lady here is sort of doing the cupping, and then maybe this, I don't know what that is. That is called a sort of massaging. So that is what is generally regarded as the method, the treatment method in Chinese medicine. So generally, people, when we talk about Chinese medicine, they are referring to, okay, to boil some very bitter taste medicine, herbal medicine, 中草药, or to do acupuncture, or moxibution. Moxibution is used the kind of fire, the heat treatment, sort of cupping, massage, or diet therapy or food therapy. Or there's a technique called the gua sha, where actually we just use some kind of tool to sort of rub the surface of the skin so that it becomes sort of red in color. Of course, there are some sort of a prevention method, like this qigong exercise, and also other kind of exercise therapy like the tai chi chuan and sort of martial arts and so on. All right. So this is what the general view about Chinese medicine, and these are the common methods we usually employ, we usually use, in the treatment. So, but the very basic concept of Chinese medicine is quite different and is quite philosophical. So maybe in the following slides, I will give you some overview about the very fundamental concept of Chinese medicine. So for the picture here, we normally just emphasize on the sort of a curative effect, okay? That means whether Chinese medicine is effective in treating disease, in curing disease. So for this, we talk about the technique, okay? But if we regard Chinese medicine as a tree, like the picture on that side, so this is actually is a sort of similar to the leaves or the flower or the branches of a tree. But actually, the most important part of the tree is the root and the stem. And this kind of technique does not refer to the stem of the tree. What is the stem of the tree? Is in fact the TCM theory. And what are the TCM theory? The TCM theory and is about the qi, the meridian, and also I talk about the organ system. In Chinese, we call it Zhang Fu. And then the very nature and principle of the herbs. Okay, these are quite fundamental, although these are not sort of directly related to the treatment, but then they are the basis of treatment. And of course, to connect the theory to the treatment, and we must use this kind of 4 diagnostic methods. All right, so within this hour today, so I would briefly talk about this TCM theory here, and then briefly compare the diagnostic method between Chinese medicine and Western medicine. So now we are still talking about this, the top part of the tree. Then how about the lower part of the tree, the root, and so on? Now, you see now this, the tree, the stem, as I said, the stem is of the tree is about the core theory, okay, the core theory. And the core theory are all recorded in the so-called the 4 great books of Chinese medicine, in Chinese called 四大经典. The 4 great books are like, the first one, of course, is the book, the classic of Yellow Emperor. And then the second one is about the Shanghan Lun, okay, which I will also give a little bit of description later on. So the lower part of the tree is a sort of a philosophical. So it is all originated from the ancient Chinese philosophy. And also that would touch upon some very fundamental basic question of like where we are from, what is human, and what causes the change in our body or in the universe. And all this actually we can find uh, uh, the sources from where? From the Tao, from the Tao. You know that in the Warring State and also in the Han Dynasty and before, there are a lot of great thoughts in China. One is the Taoism, and the other one is the Confucianism. Okay, uh, 道家这个儒家so all these are very fundamental, and the theory of Chinese medicine actually borrowed thoughts from this kind of philosophy. So these are the forming the root of the tree, whereas all these acupuncture things are mainly forming the leaves and the flowers, or the most you can say is and of course we will touch upon this yin yang and fire element and so on. Now the very fundamental thing about Chinese medicine is about this so-called qi. So there are a lot of different translation about this. Uh, some translate this as the air or the vapor or the breath, But then it is for most of the books nowadays, they just use the sound translation as qi. And there's a term called the primordial qi, which in Chinese called yuan qi, yuan qi. So these are the very fundamental, because everything comes from the qi. Now, I probably cannot have time to go into the detail of this. For example, this is about the Lao Tzu, Lao Tzu, who wrote a book, which is a very short one, about 5,000 characters. But then the meaning in this Tao Te Ching is very, very sort of substantial. So in this book, in this chapter 25 of this Tao Te Ching, it is translated as there's something in a chaotic state existing before the formation of heaven and earth. So he's talking about, what's the formation of the universe, and it moves cyclically and unceasingly and can be the mother of all things. That is including the human being. I don't know its name, so I call it as Tao. So this is all right. So that means we believe that qi is the most important thing of the universe, and the life of human being is the assembly of the qi, and life is due to the assembly of qi, and death is due to the dispersion of qi. So if the qi assemble together, then there's a life, and uh, on the contrary, if it disperses, then the life will vanish. So this is some belief of the qi. So this just tell you that there's a kind of a psychic change of qi from intangible to tangible. Intangible means sort of invisible, which is great empty, which is actually a translation of Tai Shi. So coming from the invisible great empty, it will be transformed into something which is tangible. You can touch, you can see, and then it is something like a human being or a plant or something living. And then at the end of the life, after death, then this all will disperse, and then the chi will go back to the intangible form. So to sum up, it is the chi and the holistic will of the body. So we believe that our body is made up of chi, and also the chi is something that is always moving. As this picture shows, if this is our body, the physical body, there must be chi inside the body, which is ascending, descending, entering, and exiting. So it is in Chinese called 升降 出入. So it must be in this kind of constant movement. Okay, so before we leave chi, I want to show you a video, which is a very short one of about 3 minutes, which is actually some scientists in University of California did a kind of experiment. It is not to prove the qi, but then they will demonstrate that with qi there are some effect which they can measure. They can use sort of some instrument to measure. As I said, these are some scientists in the University of California. They try to use some kind of instrument to measure the effect of qi. Okay, the qi is actually done by maybe after the video we'll
Yi
discuss.
Jin is an adjunct professor with the Department of Psychiatry and Human Behavior and is the director of the Behavioral EEG Lab for the School of Medicine at the University of California at Irvine.
As a scientist, I want to see the hard evidence. So I think that this is a good chance for us to put things together and see if we can document this and then we can demonstrate the effect of it.
In order to assess the impact of these non-touch treatments, we used a small group diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Our intention is to demonstrate a real and consistent effect of distance healing and work towards establishing an understanding of the underlying functional mechanism.
Close to your head, slowly rotate around it, and we get a really cool picture of activity, where we see good areas of activity, areas that are too low, and areas that are too high.
During this study, Dr. Tatsuo Hirano either simulated or actually administered the distance healing treatments to the subjects from the corner of a closed room. In order to nullify influences from any wishful thinking or placebo effect, only the researchers, not the subjects, were kept abreast as to when the treatment was truly being provided. An infrared camera was used to map the distribution of the subject's skin surface temperatures before and after each treatment. EEG readings were used to monitor and record changes in activity of the subject's brain waves before, during, and after the treatments. SPECT scans were taken prior to and then 24 hours after the treatments to capture detailed physiological profiles of the subject's brains. The resulting diagnostic measurements, regarded as indicators of various bodily functions, were tabulated, compared, and interpreted by their respective experts.
Well, in my first look at this EEG data, there are some familiar characters and there are some surprises. But really one of the main surprises here is the consistency of the data in this 7 subjects. It looks like from the EEG that everybody is going from this alpha activity to this highly activated cortical activity of what would be, you know, highly attentive, aware situation.
What we found, we did initial data collection on 4 subjects and found that before the Qigong treatment, their brains looked about like everybody else's brains normally do. But after the treatment, we saw significant perfusion throughout the cerebral cortex.
For every subject, we see changes, and this is a direct evidence for the existence of Qi. And the changes is general from disorderly to orderly, from much more variation of temperature to less variation of the temperature on the surface, and from a higher temperature to a lower temperatures. And this basically means the Qigong is restoring the body to a more healthy state.
Is there a rational explanation of this healing through what many would call empty space? Dr. Leung, a quantum physicist in particle physics, has recently formulated a biophysics basis for the potential mechanisms behind some ordinarily non-tangible topics, such as acupuncture and Qi.
External Qi emitted from Qigong masters has at least 2 components: low-frequency electromagnetic waves and subsonic sound waves. The frequency of these waves is most likely in the range of 0.1 Hz to 100 Hz. This is the same type of frequency range that acupuncturists use in actual acupuncture. This suggests that these kinds of waves can possibly detect using existing technology in the form of instrument placed between the Qigong master and the patient. We may be able to quantify that waves are detected when healing starts and waves are not detected when healing stops.
According to Dr. Leung, it is possible to formulate a quantum field theory for external Qi. This theory can be made as rigorous as the theories governing.
Okay, so I will stop here. All right, so this is sort of some kind of modern instrument technology to see if there's any effect after the Qigong master, you know, deliver the Qi. Actually, the Qigong master did not touch the subject. You know, it is sort of then they measure something, they pick up something different. You know. All right, then now we move away from Qi, and then we go to another major theory about this Chinese medicine, which is about Yin and Yang. Okay, so and we believe that Yin and Yang must sort of coexist and in harmony. Okay, and if our body have a harmonious state of Yin and Yang, then we'll be healthy. So the theory about the Yin and Yang, you know, is a long time ago, and I think it's 2,000, 3,000 years ago already in China. They have this kind of concept. So originally, Yin and Yang means the dark side and the sunny side of the hill. For example, this is the hill, then this part is called the Yin, and this part is called the Yang. Okay, so the Yin and Yang, and so by definition, Yin and Yang are a pair of highly abstract concept, okay, philosophical concept representing the 2 mutual opposite aspects existing in all things or phenomenon in the natural world. So we just borrow this concept to explain what happened in the body, you know, and then, for example, as this picture shows, we can generalize saying that a woman is Yin, a man is Yang, in the daytime is Yang, and the night is Yin, and so on. And most important is yin and yang is changing. So it can be demonstrated like in this picture of our 24 hour, okay, 24, one day, okay. Then we, like for example, we start with midnight, which is at the very extremity of the yin. If it is a midday, you know, then it is the very top of the yang, and then it gradually changes. Okay, so for example, we start off midday, which is at the very top of the yang, and then when uh, the sun is moving, and then it's going to the dusk, and then we think we suggest that it is the yang is decreasing, and then the yin is increasing. Okay, whereas the in this part, then there's a yin within the yin, and this is yang within the yin, because actually what is behind this line here are all this part, we can say it's yin as compared to above this line. Okay, these are yang, but then within the yin, it is always changing. This is the yin is increasing in this part, and then the yin is decreasing, and so on. Like for this part, yang within the yang, and this is yin within the yang, and so on. Similarly, we can also use the yin yang to explain the changes in the four seasons. Okay, so like in the winter solstice, it is the lower the yin of the extremity of the yin, as compared to the summer solstice, it is the extremity of the yang. And then as the year move by, then it is the yin and yang is going through this psychic change, and that is and there are a lot more theory about this yin and yang. So first, the yin and yang are so-called mutually opposite. They are opposite. Although they are opposite, they must be dependent on one another. So this is very simple. Like for example, if we make an comparison between men and women, so men is yang and women are yin. So, but they are mutually dependent. Otherwise, if in the whole world there's only one sex, then there's no meaning of a yin and yang. And then it's always changing, and change. And when we go comes to the extremity, then there's the change. All right. So at the end, balance and harmony is the most important, the core thought of the yin and yang. So the other part is about the holistic concept. In Chinese called the 整体观. So Chinese medicine believed in this holistic concept. The first part of the holistic concept is we believe that man is not sort of isolated. We are the, but we do not believe that man is the above everything or the boss of the universe. We believe that man is between the heaven and the earth, and we must live, in this planet, in this earth, in unity with heaven and earth. That is one of the key concept about the holistic concept. And then we also believe that our body, of course, our body is made up of different organs. Okay, the heart, the liver, the spleen, lung, and so on. But then within our body, we are also sort of a small universe. So it is the unity within the body, and all these different organs, they must sort of coexist and they must work together in unity. So this is another side of this holistic concept. So for example, if to obtain good health, we must have the harmony of the universe, and also the harmony of the universe, harmony of the society, and harmony of the human body. Like, or maybe this picture just is so happened that now is this kind of flowering season now in the northern hemisphere, and when we are now in springtime, and then we can see a lot of beautiful flowers coming. Now, this young guy, is not alone by himself. Actually, he's living, within the whole the environment and the universe, and then within his body, inside, the organs are also have to be in harmony as one another together. So that means the small universe and the big universe, we all have to sort of coexist, and we must respect one another and also obey the law of nature and so on. So this is another core belief in TCM, the traditional Chinese medicine. Now, what follow, I would briefly discuss about the different views about the diagnosis, how to diagnose disease. And so if you look at this picture, about the two apples, okay, and just from the picture, from the look, we will, from our experience, we know that this one is a healthy one. This one is sort of rottening, it's not. So of course, this is very simple because you can see from the very surface. But for disease, it's not as simple, so simple as that. We have to use a lot of method to see what happened. But there's in Chinese medicine, there's a belief that what has been happening inside the body, eventually will show up in the surface, and therefore we can use our sensory organs, to detect what happens. So these are the basis of the 4 diagnostic method. Okay, so there are this diagnostic method in Chinese called 水沉试诊, as one is similar between Chinese medicine and Western medicine, because Western medicine also do a lot of inquiry, asking questions and so on. For this part is the same, but whereas the other part, there are some great difference. So the way that we diagnose to see whether a person is normal or abnormal, like if this is a sick person, then what happens? We can use our eye, okay, sort of a inspection or observation. Normally, what do we see? We see the tongue, Of course, we also see the face, any sort of abnormality with respect to the color of the face, or the color of the hair, the color of the nails, and so on, will also give us some clue or hint. And then, well, we use listening or smelling. Of course, nowadays we seldom use this kind of sense to to diagnose a disease. Questioning, of course, is something that is done. Post-diagnosis is one of the special feature about the diagnostic method in Chinese medicine. Okay, so now here is this slide shows you some basic difference between Western medicine, which is based on the biomedical science, and Chinese medicine. Whatever method they use, we want to diagnose what happened to the sick person. Okay, maybe for example, if that person is coughing a lot, okay, and then for biomedical science or Western medicine, they would use the diagnostic method to check whether that person is infected by some bacteria or virus, and then what organ is being attacked and so on. But for Chinese medicine, we will use the theory that I mentioned earlier about the yin and yang, about the 5 phases, to try to correlate the data that we collect from the 4 diagnoses. So I think it is, yeah, we can, maybe we stop here for the diagnosis because I think the time is a little bit short now. We continue. Now, this slide is about the medicine. I would like to give short comparison between, this is about the treatment method, okay? For the Chinese herbal medicine, we also use the same theory of yin yang to divide the medicine into 4 natures, like whether this herbal medicine is cool or cold, whether this is warm or hot type, okay? And then broadly, we can divide some medicine into the yin type of medicine and some into a yang type of medicine. And of course, 4 natures, that is cool, cold, warm, and hot, and then 5 flavors. There's the different tastes, whether it is bitter, whether it is sweet, and so on. And the 5 flavors, we can use these 5 phases or 5 elements to interconnect them. Okay, so if the herbal medicine is sort of salty in nature, then it's more closely related to the kidney, and because it is in the 5 phases, it's salt, this is water. And if, for example, sweet in nature, then it most likely it will be beneficial to the spleen, and because the spleen is the earth and so on. So this is a kind of using the 5 phases as a correlation. Now, all in all, in Chinese medicine, whether it is herb or whether it is animal product medicine, most of them are natural properties. Okay, they are natural. They are something that is obtained naturally. So in that sense, there's a quite a big difference between Chinese medicine and Western medicine. For Western medicine, they are mainly sort of synthetic chemicals or chemical compounds. West Chinese medicine, as said, is more natural in nature, right? And other big difference is for Western medicine, they are mostly, of course, we cannot say 100%, but quite a lot of this Western medicine are the so-called the symptomatic. Okay, they stop the symptom, but many of them are not really treating the disease. Maybe I quote 3 examples. One is insomnia. That is the sleeping problem. People who cannot sleep well. So in Western medicine, they use the sleeping pill to treat. Okay, or the tranquilizer and so on. Of course, this will stop the symptom, and after taking the sleeping pill, you will fall asleep, fall into sleep very quickly. But then in the long run, it's not a genuine treatment. Another example is about the skin problem. Okay, maybe people who have the eczema and so on. In many cases, in Western medicine, the doctor would prescribe what some kind of the steroid. Okay, the steroid drug, maybe ointment and so on, which can stop this kind of itchiness and so on. But at the end, it's not treating the disease because it just stopped the symptom. And that's why, that's in as far as medication is concerned, there's a very big difference. And my students sometimes ask me why, in Western medicine, some drugs, that has been used for a short period of time, maybe 10 years or 20 years, and then they have to stop using that. They become no use because of the difference. Because, for example, we talk about this kind of drug that stop kill the bacteria. Okay, but then because they kill the bacteria, then the bacteria will develop the resistance, and then there comes to a problem of drug resistance. So in this kind of drug, and then they will become obsolete after a certain period of time. But you seldom hear that about Chinese medicine after being used for a short time will become no use, because actually we are using some Chinese medicine for over 1,000 years and still useful, because the theory behind is quite different. Okay, this is about acupuncture. The basis of acupuncture, right? Is based on the Jing law, King law, is the meridian and channel, and so on. This is quite unique in Chinese medicine, because I think acupuncture is not shared by other type of medicine. But in view of the time, I will not go into the detail of that. But people will ask why that you stick a needle into the acupuncture. You can cure disease. There's something quite fundamental about that. Okay, so to conclude, okay, the Chinese medicine has the root in the Chinese culture. So if you really want to study Chinese medicine well, it's not enough if you just remember 100 different names of the herbs, or some acupuncture, the names of acupuncture in the body is of course important, but it's not enough. You have to really understand more about where the underlying concept, the root of the concept. Okay, so about the qi, the tao, and then about the yin yang and the 5 phases and so on. So these are some of the philosophical concept. Oh, sorry about that. Maybe some sound to make you awake. Okay, so the Chinese philosophy always believe that everything, including the universe, is sort of interrelated and changing all the time. So we have to be sort of in harmony and so on. And so this is the concept of 天人合一. That means the heaven and man, have to be in unity. And human organism is just like a miniature version of the universe. That's something that I explained before. But then they are interrelated by this so-called 5 phases or 5 elements. That is the wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Okay, and they are constantly interacting in between the opposing and unifying force, and that is the yin and yang. So health is achieved only when equilibrium can be maintained. On the contrary, disease or sickness will appear when it is out of the balance. So this is the very basic law that we have to follow. We also believe that disease come about when there's a weakening state of a body as a whole. So, we cure a disease by trying to reinforce or reinstate this and stimulate the body's internal strength. So it is true that if you treat disease by Chinese medicine, it may not be as fast, as a sort of efficient, as the Western medicine. It takes a longer time to cure a disease, but then in most cases, the result will be long lasting, and that is the very basic difference, between Chinese medicine and Western medicine. So these are the final few slides, before we end. So the difference between Chinese medicine and Western medicine, they are based on different theories, like the different view to the universe, different view towards the health and environment, and using the different method to explain the world and result in different theory concerning health and disease. So all this. So actually, the method we employ, the Chinese medicine people employed is quite different from thinking method used by Western medicine practitioners, because if you know the history of Western medicine, actually the modern medicine now we are using have a very relatively short history. It only comes around a few hundred years ago, after the Renaissance. Okay, after the development of this basic science, the science of physics, the science of chemistry, and science of biology. So modern medicine based all on the concept of atoms. Okay, these are the last few slides, but then it contain quite a lot of information here. Now, this picture actually is also comparison between the two systems, the different views from the two medical systems. So as I said, this part is the view of our body from Western medicine point of view, because as I said, it is based on the biological science. All right, so when you see a man, you are seeing what is behind the man. The man is made up of of course, the man itself is an organism. So this actually the last few slides, and then we will end this first session. Now, as you can see from this picture, this part is what the Western medicine see a man, So when a patient come in, and then the doctor probably is seeing that person, and then in his mind, he's thinking about what organ has a problem. And then some people, some doctor will think even in the sort of in the tissue level, in the cellular level, on the molecular level. And some Western medicine are telling you about the genetic level, what they are thinking about what's problem with the gene inside, the DNA inside that person. But the same person, if he visit the Chinese medicine doctor, probably the doctor will see the person in the context of whether his sort of his life is sort of harmonious with the heaven and earth, with the environment and so on, and also whether within his body itself, whether all the organs are sort of in sort of in harmony and so on. So actually the same person, if viewed by the two different medical systems, actually they are seeing different things from him. And the next, so yeah, there's the next slide is also a very interesting one, Of course, but what I say is this is just a general comparison. So actually there are some kind of Western medicine, they may share similar view about Chinese medicine and so on. But in general, Chinese medicine try to detect nature by not destroying the nature. So if we treat this as our body, so we try to learn what is happening, what is changing inside the body without breaking it open. And that is one of the technique that Western medicine use, just cut open the body and see what is inside. There's a belief that once you cut open the body, actually things have already changed and so on. Now, so as compare different aspect, for example, treatment method. In Western medicine, we are talking about disease of the human being. In the eyes of the Western medicine doctor, they focus on the disease. But then in the eyes of the CM doctor, they focus more on the human instead of the disease. It seems to be a little bit abstract, but if I quote the example of the recent COVID-19, okay, so in Western medicine, they more focus on the virus, how to kill the virus and so on. But in Chinese medicine, then we place the focus on the patient, the body of the patient, whether whether it's hot or cold type, and then we use method to try to make it balance. So there's quite a different focus in the treatment method. Research, okay, human being of the biology. So we put in Western medicine, man is placed, in line with different animals, whereas in Chinese medicine, we place man as part of the nature. So also the research method, Chinese medicine is quite dynamic and entirely and systematic. In in Western medicine, they use the reductive method. And okay, this I probably will not focus on this comparison table. Some of this I have already mentioned. So I will not go into the detail. So finally, use this disease and as an example. Here is a flu kind of disease. You can also say this is COVID-19 because it is a kind of viral disease. Okay, so after you contact you're infected with the viral disease, okay, you will the disease will go, the virus will go into the different part of the body, and then will have a different symptoms. You know, if it go to the intestine, will cause diarrhea, and you know, if it goes to the stomach, will cause vomiting, nausea, and if it attack the lung, then it will cause coughing and so on. So for Western medicine, they focus on the disease, like for example, this flu or COVID-19 is a kind of coronavirus, and then the medicine is Tamiflu. You know, Tamiflu, this is a kind of medicine that will stop the replication of the virus. But now we know that it is useful in the very early stage of the disease. But if in the after the disease progress, then seems this kind of drug has not much effect. So as a comparison, you know, if also the viral disease, then for Chinese medicine, they would try to focus on the harmony of the body, some social factor, emotional factor, and so on, you know, and then to try to use some drug or acupuncture external force to try to rectify if there's the harmony is being sort of disturbed, you know. So we use this yin yang and five phases theory, okay, to try to correct this kind of disharmony, and hopefully with the balance of the harmony of the body, then the body itself will correct the disease, will try to kill the virus by our body. So we are in Chinese medicine, the herb that you drink, the acupuncture needle, you know, actually cannot kill the virus. You know, it's just try to they are method that will push your body to do to do the work of killing the virus, okay, if it is a kind of viral disease. Okay, so I think that is the end of my talk. Thank you. Any question, or should I explain a little bit about, do you have question about the short video that I play about the measurement of the effect of the qi? In that experiment, you know, actually they use the they employ a qigong master. You know, this Japanese qigong master. The qigong master will sort of use this kind of external qi to influence the patient, and then they measure the different aspect of the patient. For example, use the infrared camera. They will try to see whether after the effect of the qigong, you know, any change in the body temperature. Okay, and then they found really there are some change, you know, although the patient does not know, you know, when the qigong master will act and when the qigong master stop, you know, and so that is the one part using the infrared camera. And then the EEG means to measure the brain wave, you know, and then they found that there's some change in the brain wave. And then there's another instrument measure the blood flow inside the brain, okay, and they detect the changes after the Qigong master act. So that is how the experiment, try to demonstrate actually qi has some effect, although we cannot see qi. It's,
I'd like to ask a question.
yes, yes, yes.
So, so
Welcome.
thank you again, Professor Leung. Thank you
You're
for your
welcome.
presentation. In your presentation, you spoke about the relatively short history of Western medicine compared with Chinese medicine. But as most of us know today, I mean, even in Chinese societies, Western medicine is, perhaps more popular. At least it is. People are more aware of it or knowledgeable, or the first reaction when they have disease quite often is to, to reach out for some Western pharmaceutical drug. How do you think we can overcome such an imbalance, given that the concepts of qi and yin yang, I mean, while Chinese people grow up with them, it's something you don't encounter in the formal education system, whereas in the scientific basis of Western medicine is something we study in schools, right? So there's obviously a gross imbalance. What do you think is how can we overcome this?
Yes, it's a big question, and very, really, it is very true. What you said is very true. Western medicine or modern medicine is the mainstream medicine for, I think, most places, in the world. Okay. Of course, there are a lot of explanation about that. Although many people also point out there are quite a lot of sort of deficiency in Western medicine, or actually for their treatment, there are quite a lot of side effects and so on, and so it's difficult, I understand in mainland China, for example, China is the origin of Chinese medicine, but then still Western or modern medicine is the mainstream, and it has more money and more support from the government. I have no solution. I have no solution to that. But for me, I think it's important to put some kind of some fundamental theory of Chinese medicine into the education. In the primary or secondary education. I think in China they are. In some part of the China, they are doing that, at least to make a balance, because when we are young, all we learn is about about our body, is about the Western way, of thinking about the molecule, about because this is the scientific way, okay, the so-called. So I'm sorry I cannot have an answer, to some people, trying hard, to fight for a better treatment, or a better the fight for the government, to give more money to the promotion of Chinese medicine. I know people are doing that. Thank you. Actually, from what country are you from? Where?
I was originally from Singapore.
Oh, I see.
And I actually did my first PhD with Kinchi at Lingnan.
Oh, I see.
And one of my topics I recall was, I wanted to actually study Chinese medicine in cultural studies. But one of the difficulties I had was exactly these Chinese philosophical notions were so foreign to me. I had to give up, because in a sense, it's like you correctly point out, it's rooted in Chinese philosophy. So unless you are well versed, in Chinese culture, it's almost impermeable to the Western trained mind. Indeed, that's a challenge. And I guess my second question then is, you are now at Lingnan.
Yes.
And so what is the function, or what is the purpose of this Lingnan? It is a program, or it's a department, or?
Sorry, there's some kind of connection problem. Maybe can you repeat your question?
So I'll repeat. Yes, you are now at Lingnan University.
Yes.
I was just curious about the function of this department or this unit at Lingnan.
Okay.
What is the purpose of this?
Okay. Maybe I try my best to explain. You have been in Lingnan before, right? Lingnan is a liberal arts university, so actually there's nothing to do with Chinese medicine. But Chinese medicine, I always emphasize, although people say that it's a kind of technique that you can learn to treat disease, it is also a kind of culture. Okay, so for some university, they do not have medical school and so on, but then if you learn some Chinese medicine, you probably can pick up some of the concept behind, the culture, then how people like as I just mentioned, the yin yang and the five phases or five elements, that sort of thing. We seldom heard about that, in other subject areas. So I think we can treat Chinese medicine as a kind of a cultural subject. But here in Lingnan, I teach Chinese medicine to a master, kind of self-financed master program, which is related to health management, and so it is just one subject, in this master program. And of course, we recently opened up Chinese medicine clinic, which is thanks to the effort of the VP, Professor Mok, who strongly support this kind of Chinese medicine clinic, in liberal arts university. Thank you. Yes,
now,
welcome.
I have no solutions, basically, to the problems you raised towards the end of the lecture, but I would like to make a few comments. I'm not by nature an optimist, but on this issue, I'm fairly optimistic. There's nothing, it seems to me, that Chinese medicine needs to do, because its fate is dependent not upon its intellectual, clinical merits. Its fate is dependent upon global politics. Now, it seems to me that Western medicine became dominant in modern times because Western society became very powerful, its economy became very powerful, fueled by its science and technology. And as a result, the Chinese society and culture and civilization were downgraded and sneered upon. But now I think the tide is turning. Increasingly, it is felt that the 21st century will be a Chinese century, and the West will sink into very, very slow decline. Now, I have got no crystal ball, no more than you have, to gaze into the future, but I think there may be a bit of truth in that prediction for futurologists to say that much. So that's one observation that I make. The second observation that I make is that actually Western medicine has not stopped developing. It has also shifted and it has moved. It has moved for the purpose, for the theme and the discussion today. It has moved in two ways. First of all, we are living in the middle of a pandemic, and that teaches medical science, Western medical science, numerous lessons, it seems to me. Because if you take epidemiology is not like clinical medicine as taught in Western medical schools and universities, because it is what I call an ecosystem science. And if you look at your chart about what Chinese medicine is, what you are really saying is that Chinese medicine, I'm taking credit for your work, that you agree with me. It's saying that it's an ecosystem science, because you cannot understand disease just as a disease in the form of a pathogen. You've got to understand how it works inside the human body. The human body, the human being is not just a simple organism. The human body has its own psychology, its own psychological, social, cultural characteristics, because we're all embedded in wider ecosystems. So that in that sense, and this is what I'm trying to get Western medical scientists to accept, that follow the model of logic and of thinking in epidemiology rather than in traditional clinical medicine as understood in the last century. The century has moved on, so even Western medicine will have to move on. And the second thing, which I am fairly optimistic about, is that within clinical medicine, in Western medicine, I have found changes. Now, you have correctly identified one of the important distinctions between Chinese medicine and Western medicine, so far understood, is that what the Chinese medicine is holistic and therefore non-reductionist, whereas Western medicine uses the technique of reductionism. But I find that increasingly they themselves are getting rather disappointed and frustrated by this model of this reductionist model, that it wouldn't do. That I would put it, in other words, then, that up to now, Western medicine has been functioning as a kind of Newtonian science. Its future lies in not being a Newtonian science, a post-Newtonian science. And a post-Newtonian science rejects the method of reductionism. And so if you look at quantum physics, for instance, quantum has nothing to do with reductionism. And okay, you may say that quantum is too far off the radar for us. But if you look at even within clinical medicine itself, you'll find that the reductionist model increasingly becomes less and less attractive because it poses too many anomalies which cannot be resolved within that paradigm itself. So there has to be what Kuhn calls a paradigm shift. And what is very comforting to me is to find the work of Dennis Noble, who is a Nobel Prize physicist, Nobel Prize winner in biology, and his book, which is called The Music of Life, is really about criticizing the model of reductionism, the methodology of reductionism, and to opt for the methodology of complexity and of system thinking, which is actually ecosystem science, right? So as I see it, that's why I say my conclusion is rather curious. But Chinese medicine, we don't need to do anything. Those of us who have faith in it, just stay doing what we are good at doing. Improve it as much as we are within our own framework. Make sure we ourselves understand the roots of our own thinking. And slowly, the world will come round to us. So the 21st century is, I think, the Chinese century. So maybe I might be, up the spout, but I've got some faith that maybe people will, it takes a long time. Any paradigm takes a long time to die, and the new paradigm takes a long time to come on stream. So we may be living at a very critical juncture in human history, that finally Chinese science and Chinese thinking will become more mainstream. So I think it's up to us who are sons and daughters of the Yellow Emperor, so to speak, to have confidence in this mode of thinking, so that the Chinese way of thinking should be systematically applied not only across the board, not only in medicine, but also in other cognitive domains and other sorts of intellectual activities. For instance, it has a lot to offer in architecture. It's got, and so on and so forth. It's got a lot to offer in engineering terms. For instance, if you look at the hydro engineering of which has existed for, now what is the name of that hydro? In Sichuan,
You mean the person or the?
No, it's the engineering project.
都江堰啊，都江堰。都江堰。都江堰。
If you look at that, it's lasted more than about 2,000 years. Why should it last? Because it is but, in a sense, an application of yin yang, it seems to me. And also, why is it that in Chinese architecture, the whole of Tiantang can be built without a single nail? It is the Shunmao method. The Shunmao method is but yin yang. So if you look, you'll find examples everywhere. So I think that's what we need. It's a bit too late for me. I need another incarnation to be the world that you lot out there are young. So I urge you, to do it. Because you can develop from that in all domains. In all domains, not simply in medicine. I've cited some examples, two sorts of other domains, but I'm sure you can systematically use it, renew the thing, enlarge it. And I'm sure, in that way, that would be a very worthwhile contribution, not only to the promotion of Chinese culture and civilization in the world, but towards human knowledge in general. So it's a venture. It's an adventure in human knowledge, really. I think.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lee. That's really very encouraging. Very encouraging, and I totally agree with you that the comparison between Chinese medicine and Western medicine does not simply lie on this kind of curative or treatment effect. Actually, I myself is a Chinese medicine doctor. I found that actually we can cure many more disease, in a better way than Western medicine. Say one example is about gynecology problem, some patients facing, for the ONG doctors, they very often recommend the patient to have the whole uterus to be removed. But for the TCM doctor, we think no, the patient is still so young. Why do you remove the uterus? There's something. It's very disturbing, and so I think, of course, the power of money earning, is very important. Western medicine can earn a lot of money. You just, for example, the pharmaceutical company which make this the hypertensive drug, do you know how much they sell, because of this very common hypertension or diabetes drug, this kind of medicine actually is stopping the symptom, but actually not curing the disease. So I think it's really something that is we really need to work hard. Thank you. And I appreciate particularly that Professor Lee shared about the use of this Chinese medicine concept philosophy in other areas like architecture and engineering. This is something that hasn't come into my mind before, and it's really quite something that we have to explore.
Thank you very much for the Professor Leung to have a free seminars, very valuable and then very inspiring us for the Yin Yang and then give us a concept of the Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine is different from the point of from the Western one, and that this is a really fully full of the Chinese culture inside and the Yin Yang and everything. Thank you very much, and thank you for both interpreters for their for their interpretation. And then because this section is a broadcast of in the Venezuelan country, and then thanks for the Venezuelan people, and then which I would like you to enjoy this section. If you have any question, you can ask us, and then we can maybe we can have a touch later. Okay, thank you.